Alright, I want to start off by saying that this video is really meant to be a just for fun kind of a video. It's not going to be a full review of any ration, and it's not going to be any kind of a scientific thing or anything like that. It really is basically just for fun. So I want to get that out of the way before somebody watches this and then says, hey, you just wasted 10 minutes of my life. And with that being said, MRE Pizza was finally released in February of 2018. And that was after many years and even decades of trying to develop this thing. Something that seems like such a simple idea took a long time to get it right. And the interesting thing is that while this was developed for the US government MREs, it's put out by the Bridgeford Company, which is a commercial company. And because of that, that meant this date code of 8033, the 33rd day of 2018, was not only the day that this was packaged, it was also basically around the day that it became available to the public, to the general public. So we didn't have to wait for 2018 genuine US MREs to actually get a look at these. And because of that, many people have already reviewed MRE Pizza. I myself have done a whole series of videos on them, and a lot of people probably say, I think you've done about enough of them. But to be honest, this is one other video that I did want to make back then, and if I ever manage to get my hands on a 2018 or later genuine MRE version of MRE Pizza, I'll probably do a review of that. As of right now, the summer of 2018, I've only seen one review of a genuine US MRE with MRE Pizza, and that was, not surprisingly, by Steve1989. He's the first person that I know to have actually gotten a genuine MRE with the MRE Pizza in it. So in discussing MRE Pizza, especially before it came out, I've always said that I expected it to be like Ellio's pizza. So the purpose of this video is to compare MRE Pizza to Ellio's pizza, so we can see just how much they are similar and how much they are different in reality. And the first thing to mention about the comparison is the fact that, as I mentioned, this isn't a scientific video, and part of the reason for that is because these aren't the same thing. This MRE pizza is a shelf-stable pizza, which means I can leave it sitting on this table for 2 years and I can come back and eat it and it'll be just fine. As of right now, it is 6 months old, so it's already has a little bit of age on it. Ellio's pizza is a frozen pizza, and that means that you actually have to put it in the freezer to store it. It can be stored for a long time, but it's not shelf-stable. And you actually have to cook this. MRE Pizza, you certainly can heat it, and we will do that for this demonstration. But Ellio's Pizza, I don't think you would want to eat this uncooked. If you just were to just take this out and let it thaw, I don't think it would be very good. And what they do have in common is they're both very much processed kind of foods. They're not like a homemade pizza. Obviously, this is a frozen pizza. It was made by a company and frozen in huge batches. This one, you can see it has a lot of ingredients on it. Once again, it's a very processed product. It's to be expected. We're not eating fresh pizza from a local pizzeria here. But the reason I expected them to be similar is because I thought the MRE pizza, I actually thought it would come in this shape. It just happens that it did. I didn't actually know that, but it just comes in the shape, which is almost exactly the same as a single slice of Ellio's pizza. And I guess basically what I just said about them being processed foods, I expected them to taste quite similar, despite being different in nature as far as being shelf-stable and being frozen. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take some Ellio's and we're going to prepare it as the instructions say. And use a toaster oven at 425 degrees. And for the MRE pizza, I'm going to prepare this in what seems to be the optimal way of preparing this. Obviously in the field you would use your flameless ration heater or some other way to heat it up in the package. And that's fine, it makes it warm, but what we're going to do to make it just a little bit better and a little bit closer to the Ellio's, I'm going to heat this up in hot water and then throw it onto a hot pan for a few seconds just to kind of crisp up the bottom a little bit. So let's take a quick look at the Ellio's. You can see what it looks like straight out of the package. Comes in these three pizzas, and I believe they're scored on the bottom. Actually, there's not much scoring, but you're supposed to be able to break them into thirds. Another good thing about this video is it gives me a chance to have some Ellio's pizza. It's something that I liked as a kid, and it's kind of a kid's food. It's pretty similar to like a school pizza kind of thing, and to be honest, I don't get to eat it very often anymore, so this is kind of a little treat, something kind of fun for me, in addition to hopefully being a fun video. So I actually prefer the plain cheese Ellio's. The pepperoni kind of makes it a little bit greasy, but let me see if I can give this a good break here so we have something that is representative of an MRE pizza. Not quite perfect, but that's okay. And well, I only need one piece, so let's go ahead and cook all 3 slices. You certainly can cook these as a single piece and then break them up. For whatever reason, I always like to break them up first. And we'll let that cook for about 13 minutes. And while the Ellio's cooks, we'll go ahead and do the 2-step heating method for the MRE pizza. We'll heat it up in some boiling water. And then we'll give it a quick crisping in a frying pan. And of course we'll be sure to take the oxygen absorber out first. But that's very hot. Here's what the pizza looks like, the MRE pizza. One thing that's definitely going to be, well, we'll talk about that in a second. And this certainly isn't a necessary step, and it's not how you would most likely be able to eat it out in the field, but it's nice to just crisp it up a little bit on the bottom. And meanwhile, the Ellio's appears to be just about ready. So I guess we'll go ahead and get our test subjects out onto a tray. Alright, and here we have our 2 pizzas. They do look kind of similar. There's definitely some differences. The first thing I want to say, before even tasting these, is that there's been a lot said about the cheese on the MRE pizza and the fact that it won't melt. It looks like cheese, it looks like grated cheese. You can heat it up, it tastes okay, but it won't melt. It'll always look like this. It'll brown. If you put this into an oven or a toaster oven, actually you can see here, it will brown, but it seems like no matter what you do, it won't actually melt. The cheese on the Ellio's, on the other hand, it actually does melt. You can still kind of see the shapes, but you can see how it sort of melted and bubbled up a little bit there. But now I guess really all that's left to do is to give this a taste and see how similar and how different they are. The MRE pizza, as I said, I did a little bit different than you would do in the field because I did brown the bottom a little bit, and that's just personal preference kind of thing. And since I did do it the Ellio's in the toaster oven, not on a baking sheet, that did make that more of a toasted crust. So I kind of wanted to have them be kind of similar. But let's try out the MRE pizza. The crust is very doughy. It's obviously a shelf-stable crust. You don't have to cook this. It's already been cooked for you as much as it's going to be. And it's kind of in all these layers too. It's almost like a flaky pastry kind of a dough. A little tangy. You can kind of taste the sauce, and I guess you taste in the cheese. And there is the bits of pepperoni on there. But I think everybody knows what to expect from MRE pizza at this point, and that's what it is. The Ellio's, as I said, I did use the method to make it crispier by not putting it on a cookie sheet or a baking sheet. And to be honest, I actually usually do use one of those, so it may have come out a little bit closer to the MRE pizza if I hadn't, because I think it's going to be pretty crispy. And it is indeed. It's a lot crispier than what I could do to crisp this one up in that short amount of time in the frying pan. But after all those years of expecting this to be very much like this, I can see the similarities, but there definitely are differences. They both taste like a processed kind of food. As I mentioned, neither of them are going to taste like a fresh pizza. And we expect that. But I think the fact that you do actually have to cook the Ellio's does indeed make it a bit more like real pizza, or what we call real pizza. I mean, it has ingredients that aren't fully cooked. I don't know if the crust itself is partially cooked before it's frozen, because it doesn't seem to be doughy or anything when you take it out of the package. But it really does crisp up quite nice, and it gives you a nice layer. There's a lot of differences between the layers. You can taste the sauce. It seems to be pretty similar, a cheap, almost like a canned kind of sauce on both of these. And the other difference is that the cheese, the fact that it melts, it does make a difference on this. I can't say I'm getting a strong flavor from the cheese on either of them. I think you can taste them both, but it's just, it kind of feels like this is pretending to be pizza, whereas this actually is pizza. Just basically because of the fact that you have to actually cook the Ellio's. This is a very good imitation. I really don't have a lot of complaints about this. Keeping in mind, of course, that it's a shelf-stable food, despite how simple the idea of making a pizza seems to be, and the fact that this really only has 3 main ingredients: crust, cheese, and pepperoni, with all these sub-ingredients, of course, in each one. It really was a complicated thing to make something like this that was actually shelf-stable, that you didn't need to cook. I do think they did a very good job. It is a little bit strange for me to say this, but it has been many years since I've had Ellio's, and despite the nostalgic kind of thing from the youth, I wasn't expecting too much from it. But I do have to say, in a straight-up taste test, this does win. I'm not saying anything against the MRE pizza. It is what it is. It does what it's supposed to do. if you were to take this out of the package in 5 years, it would be pretty much the same as this. If you were to take this out of the package in 5 years, if it was on a shelf, obviously it would be completely rotten. And even if you had it in a freezer, it would probably be completely freezer burned and covered in frost. So for long life, you're obviously going to go with this. And it turns out, for taste, you probably go with this. If you're really going for taste, you'll go for a higher quality frozen pizza. And if you're really, really going for taste, you'll go for a real pizza. Either one that you make or one that you get from a good pizza place. But anyway, that was a long-awaited, for me at least, comparison between MRE pizza and Ellio's pizza. Thank you for watching.